Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Hajimari no Kiseki. Last episode, you guys saw 20 plus minutes of group missions that I did off screen. And I showed it to you guys, and we're in our final few episodes before we're done with this game. So first, we actually have a special episodes that we have to watch due to the Zerofield translator saying there's a few more that I have to watch, so let's get on with it. And people said this is a light novel based one, so we're gonna be in here for a while, so. This is a fragmented record floating in the vast sea of info, a story of not so distant future. Perhaps it is an afterimage of Elysium's calculations, or perhaps a faint reflection leaked out into space-time gap. Who knows? We're gonna be seeing the future. We got two things. Another hot spring town, the girl's ordinary school life, and the return to the Garden of Beginning. So in the thumbnail, or the title, we're gonna start with another hot spring town, so let's get started. January 1208 Septine calendar, so like several months after Hajimari, I guess. Located in the eastern part of Calvard, within a basin positioned between two mountain ranges, long lies city. Serving as the pathway to eastern Zemuria, as well as the hosting famous hot springs, the small city attracted both domestic and foreign tourists despite its rustic appearance. On this day, a group of tourists from another hot spring town in far northern Erebonia happened to be visiting Long Lai. Rean and his family in Elise. This elegant texture, and rich aftertaste, what a wonderful dish. And of course the food at our Phoenix Wings Inn is second to none, but these unique flavors can't be replicated anywhere. I'm assuming Calvard's gonna be based on a lot of like modern Japan, or like someone similar to China, but what? Anyways, this high-class inn, Heiki Zanro, really lives up to the expectations. It's quite a dish. Baron Theo Schwarzer and Lady Lucia Schwarzer enjoyed their meal in high spirits. In contrast, my sister Elise seemed a bit worried as she sat beside me. If you're going to spend 2 nights with a family of 4 at an inn this luxurious, it's going to cost you quite a bit of mirror. Saying as much, Elise shook her head lightly. I'm sorry. I know our family can afford it. I just have a habit of thinking too much about budget management when I was student body president. Seeing his sister's excessive diligence, Rean couldn't help but laugh before explaining the situation. Not to worry, everything's already been covered. After all, we were personally invited by the manager of the Heiki Zanro Inn. The owner of this inn was interested in meeting with us, and as another family manages a hot spring, I believe we're planning to invite him to Ymir in exchange sometimes. Isn't that right, Dad? Yeah, it's probably thanks to the return to the normal relations between our countries. The Republic is in the midst of an unprecedented economic boom, and the private sector is flourishing. I'm delighted. Teos took a sip of his drink before continuing. I guess our nations wish to try working together rather more needlessly hating each other. Simple in theory, but not so easy in practice. Lucia poured another helping of sake into Teo's nearly empty drinking cup. That's why we should cherish these precious moments and enjoy them to the fullest, don't you think? That's our job as a family. Rean and Elise both nodded in response. Yes, it's a family trip. Let's enjoy it to the fullest. Come to think of it, I've heard that there are rare sweets here. Would you like to try some, brother? I'm gonna take another dip in the hot springs after dinner, but I'll have some afterwards. As good as the food is here, the hot springs are really on another level. You think so, Rean? Teo's voice rang with enthusiasm as he hopped on the conversation. Being the baron of the hot spring village of Ymir, his love for them was equal to Rean's. There's a great variety of hot springs, interesting hot springs, of course, but I think the one that draws my attention is the medicinal baths. Yes, I first heard quite some time ago that actually experiencing their unique frame rates and heat that warms you up to the core firsthand was something else. Can't we use them at the Phoenix Wings as well? Could be worth a try, though actually achieving the same results would be quite a challenge. Tailmo Wolverine's advice leaned to more further discussion as their father-son debate over hot springs grew more and more lively. Lucia and Elise looked on with a smile. It was the first shores of family vacation in a long time. It was a chance to enjoy the same old chatter in a brand new place. That evening, following another indulgent sulk in the hot springs after dinner, Rean told his family he was going to take a walk before leaving the inn alone. Well, I guess I better get going. Taking a deep breath, he let the pure night air fill his lungs. Rean remembered the true purpose for which he'd come to visit Longlai. Yoon Ka-fai, the sword hammer. You have yet to see him. I really hope he has a model, but I guess that's his model. An old man in his 70s and the founder of the 8 Leaves One Blade Scope swordsmanship. He was a living Zemirian legend. That last time Rean had seen his mentor was many years ago before he entered doors. Over the next 4 years, they continued to communicate through letters and messages, but it had been over a year since they had any serious contact. Yeah, I believe he's talking about the letter. Yeah, CS3. The fruits of those 4 years of training, the experience he had been through to unlock the art's deepest secrets, what it truly meant to predict the 8 Leaves One Blade style. There are many things he wanted to discuss with his master, and there are also a few things I need to confirm with master. However, Yoon's abouts were still unknown. Even Cassius and Rean's other brothers, being unable to get in touch with him, a man as elusive as the clouds themselves. Searching for him would have been a fruitless endeavor. Just when they begun to lose hope, Rean came across a rumor that a master swordsman had been spotted in Longlai. Rean had heard in Longlai from Yoon many times, between its hot springs and fine tea. It was one of his favorite cities. Yoon had noted in an earlier letter that he was headed for the far eastern Cimmeria. Therefore, it was responsible to think he may be staying in Longlai, known as the Gateway to the East. It's around that time that the Schwarzer family received their invitation to Bishnan Hall to plan their New Year's trip. Couldn't help but thinking the timing was too perfect. Regardless, the information was vague. It was more than likely going to turn up nothing. Rean hadn't told his family that Yoon may be in Longlai for a number of reasons, but regardless, everyone seemed to understand he had an interior motive for coming on this trip. They've all wanted to see Yoon again for some time as well, so I didn't get their hopes up. With that in mind, Rean went to his night walk in Longlai on his own. We're gonna see a lot of this city for the Kurano Kiseki game. The hot springs town of Longlai was made up entirely of Eastern-styled buildings, giving it a unique atmosphere among Calvard cities. It was Eastern style, but not quite the same as Crossbell's East Street. It was a town that perfectly embodied the East notion of a wabi-sabi, not harshly impressing itself upon you, but instead allowing you to feel tranquility. Tranquility fueled its history and mysterious beauty. Longlai's nightlife was bustling. There were a number of different types of stalls set up to attract tourists, travelers, and even those who have come to the eastern part of the continent. Had a much different feeling from Longlai one would find at daytime. We can walk around the town, asking for various shops and stalls info about Yoon. Rean being Rean, however, he felt uncomfortable just loitering and asking questions, so he decided to check out some souvenirs while investigating. He wanted to pick up something for Elise and the rest of Old Class 7, as well as for Toa and his upperclassmen. Also, of course, something for his students. Graduation's just around the corner. Somehow, I'll think it'll be even more emotional than my own. Soon, Class 7's 2 years at doors would be up and everyone would be graduating. It would be Rean's first time experiencing his own student's graduation, naturally. Every time he thought about it, he had very mixed feelings. So much had happened in their first year alone. At the start, they were a tough class to deal with, but in good time, they began to get along. They were all perfectly in sync before they even knew it. They have learned and seen so much, they butted heads countless times, and through many experiences to come to understand each other, having overcome many trials, their growth was incredible. It was probably the most intense year of their life, not just for the students, but for Rean as well. The 10 months following the incident Crossbow flew by in a blink of an eye. Each one of them used their experiences to grow and find their own path forward, settling the past and marching towards the future. Every now and then, they allowed themselves a breather. Not one of them would ever stop moving forward. It had been a busy but productive year. Soon be time for them to relieve the academy and soar on their own wings. Rean was proud beyond measure, but he couldn't abate his own sadness. So this is how I'll feel every year from now on. Guess I chose the hard road again. He realized he stopped walking somewhere along the way, paying his respect to all the teachers who experienced the same pain before him. Rean picked his feet back up and continued to search for info. But as it seemed, Yoon was nowhere in this town. That didn't mean Rean had completely wasted his time, however. They were still unconfirmed, but it turned out there had been some similar sightings in the mountains to the south. So if I went now, that means moonwalking the mountain roads at night. I've already made plans with my family for tomorrow, so I guess I should get going while I still can. His course decided, Rean returned to the inn to drop off his souvenirs before quickly departing again, heading towards the southern mountains. He's gonna get attacked, for sure. If you're gonna go alone at night, you're gonna get attacked. Nighttime mountain roads are notoriously dangerous, but it's not as one if should absolutely avoid them at all costs. The most important thing to keep in mind was that you couldn't rely too much on sight. Your hearing and sense of smell, as well as your sense of touch whenever possible, were important sensory tools. One had to sharpen all 5 senses, taking into account their past experiences to form reasonable conjecture, and come to understand the situation on multiple levels. Though it doesn't quite remind me of my mountain training with Yoon, it had much been a more tense situation, almost life or death training. During that period, he intentionally wandered into dangerous places countless times in order to secure food. That being said, it's the Kunlun range, isn't it? I think inspiring martial artists have come here to train for quite some time. Rean proceeded deeper into the mountains, reflecting on the info he acquired over the course of the day. Find that Perseus traces in the mountains was actually a rather easy task. Campfires, footprints, hunting tracks all serve as essential clues. Whenever a person went to hunt and leave some kind of trail you could follow, distinct from those of animals and monsters. With the teachings of his old master and his avid hunter of fodder in mind, Rean proceeded with vigilance and caution. It was only for a short while before he had some human traces, but they were different than he expected. The remnants of encampment? No. The mysterious traces didn't seem to belong to a hunter nor ascetic. Even more strangely, there were a number to them, even all evenly spaced out through the area. It seemed that they were measuring something. Some academic field work? No, it seems far too big for that. With these questions in his mind, Rean went further into the mountains. Soon, he found yet another trail. Wait, the tracks have been overcalled being pushed along. No, maybe they were using a car in order to make a road or something. In any case, they had seemed to have given up along the way. Perhaps they decided to take another route. Regardless of where they were now, why would they do something like this in such a remote, mountainous region in the first place? Rean was puzzled by more than just the odd trails he'd been pursuing. He felt that if he investigated a little bit more, it would have all become clear. Just a bit further. If I keep investigating, then I'll... It was then Rean felt a presence closing in on him. Monkus? It wasn't a great number, only 2 of them, yet it was clear that he was their target. He wondered for a moment if they'd been the ones who made the earlier trails, but their all too familiar vicious killing intent seemed to disprove that idea. Rean felt their presence approach up the dark area around him, but they stopped before coming into sight. Why don't you come on out? Trying to show that he harbored no hostile intent, he said so without touching the sword at his waist. Then, without a sound, 2 figures dark in shadow appeared before him. Dressed in black clothes, well suited for stealth, covering their bodies and faces, they seemed to be ninja, traditional role in Eastern Sumeria. ninja. What the? The Empire's very own Divine Blade. Your keen perception is as menacing as I heard. On contract, say we only observe anyone that comes by. But if they've been noted as a person of special interest, then things are different. And in absent, the two shadows were upon him. With no telegraph movement at all, they managed to close the gap. In that same instant, they struck at him with what had been known as a 9-2, a ninja's short but elegant straight-edged tachi. For a moment, Rean was caught off guard. He quickly adjusted his stance and grabbed his tachi. Fifth form, Morning Moon. Morning Moon, a form of counterattack utilizing his own blade. One would watch their opponent's movements as flow as one with them before unleashing a devastating strike in return. In a single moment, he dealt both of their ninja attacks, unbalancing them. What the? Ordinary, followed by assaulting the opponents further, but still unsure of the situation, Rean instead chose to keep his gaze trained on the two of them. I thought as much from the way you move, but actually crossing blades with you. Rean stopped for a moment, intensifying his gaze. Your techniques and stance. Are you two possibly students of the 8 Leaves School? What? But I thought he said he had no more disciples. I thought he said Rean was the last disciple. As the expectant question, two answered for a brief moment of silence. No, it's not unrelated to the 8 Leaves, but we are the Ikaruga. The weirdness of the Black God One Blade style. The fuck? Another style? The Black God One Blade style? Black God One Blade. Rean turned the word over and over in his mind. The two Ikaruga held their ninja horizontally, assuming since they were prepared to strike at any moment. Though Rean had overcome their previous state and intended to repeat the same failure. In response, Rean rebalanced his stance. Battle was beginning anew, yet in that moment, what? Rean was assailed from the darkness by a black whirlwind, a spinning disc with a destructive force that cut them all in its path. The angle, distance, timing were all perfect for a surprise attack. Seeing the two unsurprised Ikaruga, his attack must have been coordinated. That inescapable blade of death was rapidly approached from behind, but more than an arc and a half in length, it would be impossible to avoid. Perhaps the young swordsman's life would be over before he even noticed the attack. So much for the Empire's famed Divine Blade. In that exact moment, though two shadows assured themselves of their victory, Rean swung his body around, meeting the disc's force with his blade. He didn't kill the attack's momentum, instead applying a strong yet precise force to send it away from him. On a last-minute counter, Rean managed to deflect the attack before it could strike him. It was an application of the first form, Helix. Having forced the blade to deviate from its original course, Rean struck it once more, changing its direction again. The blade flies back just right of where it had come from. The hidden figure emerged from the shadows, having caught the returned blade. What is that? It seems you're no mere novice, Divine Blade. Your unclouded eye is nothing to scoff at either. The figure that emerged from the darkness is similar, not with similar clothing to worn by the other ninjas. Unlike them, however, he had far too great of a presence. He rightfully be called a shadow. He had well-toned muscles that could be seen through his armored suit. His footwork betrayed not the slightest hesitation as he approached his foe unwavering. Through the slit of his mask, one could feel the glint of his eyes shoot through the gaze of a motionless hunter. His murderous intent was enough to pierce his target like a stake. He's the very image of strength, an opponent who would only overcome countless others if you have any hopes of facing. You two are no match for him. Stand down, my useless peasants, ninjas. Without a second, the two shadows melted back into the darkness. Rean turned from one remained vigor prepared for battle. Why in the world are you all really doomed to serve explaining why you're attacking me? I'm bound by my contract to elaborate no further. Now, young Divine Blade, leave at once. It was neither an answer, a suggestion, nor a warning. The murderous intent hidden within his calm words served as proclamation order to have to Rean failed to obey. I'm sorry. I've not yet found what I came here for. If you won't give me a reason, I don't tend to turn tail and run. I see. In that case, if Rean wished to refuse, then the man had nothing left to say to him. He had only one thing left to give him, a sign that their battle had begun. I, Kurogane, of the Hazy Moon style, shall be your opponent. What? Kurogane? Assuming a sturdy upright stance, Kurogane held the massive blade he just thrown forward. I'm sure we could have solved things peacefully if we talked them over. You don't seem exactly in the talking mood. Rean corrected his stance with a sigh. As a practitioner of the 8-leaf 1-blade style, and a user of the 7-form eye, Rean swore to accept the stool. Surprisingly, Rean took the first move. Kurogane wielded the most peculiar weapon, our large throwing sword consisting of 4 equal-length blades joined together at the center to the shape of a cross. Kurogane had thrown such a heavy weapon as if it were a child's plaything. It must have had immense physical strength beyond what is thought possible for a normal person. When thrown, the weapon had incredible destructive potential. Judging by its shape, one could figure that it was well suited to close quarters combat. As far as Rean could tell, Kurogane's only weapon was the massive throwing sword. Therefore, if he could preemptively close in on him, he gained a massive advantage. Deciding as much as an instant, Rean has made his move. Second form. Tail! His sword drawn, Rean utilized some of his special footwork to close the distance in an instant and slash at him. But Kurogane took the blow with ease. Though the strike itself had no effect, Rean had still managed to close the gap he had intended. Rean thought if he just continued his onslaught, he would be able to push right through. But just as when he felt that hope, Kurogane broke his cross-shaped sword in half. No, it wasn't that. The weapon must have been such a mechanism from the beginning. Regardless, he now held in his hands a pair of twin blades. So this one weapon's actually twin blades. It's like Crow's weapon, but dual style. Double sabers. So Hazy Moon is a 2-sword style. Couldn't help it, the surprise was only natural. Double-edged sabers were a difficult weapon to handle. A relic from the Dark Ages as far as Rean knew. The only person capable of imagining one was Crow. Utilizing two of them at the same time, it was unthinkable. A feat that required incredible skill. Capitalizing on Rean's brief moment of surprise, Kurogane immediately attacked. The double sabers' offensive advantage allowed Rean for no room for error. The amount of effort required from each opponent was greatly skewed in Kurogane's favor, and soon, Rean found himself on the defensive. Blade clashed fiercely against blade. Sparks flew from their swords as brief flashes in the night sky. The back and forth offense and defense continued for some time. Kurogane had held the advantage from the outset. He couldn't press it any further. Rean was slowly but steadily regaining ground. It was natural that through the course of such a battle, Rean would get used to the twin-blade sword's movements, even though they defied common sense. Yet it was more than that. He felt that he was beginning to see it. The optimal distancing. The double-edged swords, was by their nature, had a shorter reach than the first to appear, but their blade was, after all, only the half length of the weapon. Kurogane's blades, considerably shorter than Crow's, like they were designed for throwing. However, Rean's sword actually had a narrow advantage in reach. Rean bet back and forth, finding Kurogane's blade could and couldn't reach. If he could allow his blade to barely connect with his opponent's attack, he'd be able to follow it up with a strike of his own. In such event, the fact that Kurogane required less effort would actually be a detriment, leaving him open to a counterattack. Finally, Kurogane, growing impatient from the back and forth, took an unnecessary step. Rean deftly avoided his strike and capitalized on his misstep, unleashing a diagonal upward slash. Got you. Powerful blow strikes the hilt of Kurogane's dual sabers, sending it flying from his hand. Rean hurried for to follow, but Kuragane instantly recovered from his initial shock and moved to respond. Using his other saber, he guards against Rean's follow-up before grabbing a kunai from his free hand, throwing it to keep Rean at bay. As he tossed it, he took a great leap backwards, granting himself some distance. A splendid performance, the Vine Blade of the Eight Leaves. No match up to our princess. I'll commend you for being worthy of your title. Princess? You mean there's someone stronger than him? Instead of answering Rean's questions, Kuragane assumed a stance unlike any he'd taken before and continued to speak. To honor such a worthy opponent, it would only be right for me to respond in kind with my greatest technique. At those words, Rean became vigilant as possible, focusing all of his energy observing Kuragane's movements. However, there was already nothing there. The spot Kuragane had been standing was now empty. He never took his eyes off him, never let his guard down, yet he somehow lost the sight of his enemy right in front of him. What? Possibly quick maneuver? Spatial dislocation? It didn't seem like to be either one. Then he somehow made himself invisible, but he's still there. No, it couldn't be it either. At some point, the sword Rean had sent flying, that should be sticking out of the ground, had disappeared as well. He could sense his presence. He's still around. That must mean Rean repressed his own impatience and sharpened his mind again. As he does so, the black whirlwind once more came flying at him from the darkness. So does he have like stealth? Since stealth was already OP back in Hajimari. Half expected, Rean managed to defend without being caught off guard. Somehow, Kuragane had rejoined his dual sabers in a cross-shaped form and launched it from the darkness once more. The angle of the attack changes in the surrounding presence. If I could trace it all back. Just a bit more time, she would ascertain Kuragane's position. Before he could do that, the black whirlwind came flying by him from a different direction. It's faster than I thought. Once more, Rean managed to defend himself, but the next attack came before he could completely correct his stance. The break between attacks is even shorter than before, but if this keeps up like this... Again and again, the same attack came over and over. Each attack that appeared between throats got shorter and shorter. Soon, the black whirlwind's repeated attacks grew in ferocity and speed, such that they were coalesced into a mighty storm. The air surrounding Rean was blowing the winds of death. It's like being attacked with multiple enemies at the same time, but no, there's no way. Is he duplicating himself? What? There's no way. Enemy lurked in darkness. His attacks are only growing in frequency. In this state, it would be impossible to grasp his assailant's position, even if Rean used the unclouded eye. For now, he was able to barely prevent the barrage, but if things continue like this, the situation would only worsen. I guess I have my own secret technique to use. Despite understanding the immense danger he was in, Rean took his mind off the battlefield. Giving up on invasion and defense, he simply made it sure to protect himself enough to avoid a fatal wound, knowing all of his consciousness within himself. The power he cultivated for so long, the power he once feared, detested, and rejected, the power he relied on, sought, and allowed him to engulf him, the power he faced alongside his friends, like overcome and assimilated with himself, empty his mind as were if it were a void, he unleashed it. Lucid spear of purification. Gathered immense unleashed power within his blade. With a single rotation of his body, he swung the sword horizontally through the air. His blade honed to its limit, flew through the air, and struck down a barrage of sabers, cut down the clones, rapidly filling the darkness around him. And then, I've got you. Grasping the position of the real Kuragane, he rushed towards him. Real Kuragane was so surprised by Rean's incredible comeback that he lost his footing completely and was able to deal with the next attack. I'll finish this with one strike. Rean poured his momentum into a single strike. Both he and his opponent were convinced that this was the end, and yet, there formed twin shadows. A voice as the light bell chimed through the night air as jet black flash cut through the sky, engulfing even the light of the moon. The flash intercepted Rean, preventing his attack from reaching its target. And that wasn't all. Nani? This high-pitched metallic ring. Rean saw his beloved's she snapped perfectly in half. Huh? I have no words. Princess, oh. If the princess is stronger than Kurogane was shocked at the appearance of this new figure. He couldn't figure out what she could possibly be doing here. I just heard what was happening to our two scouts. Having all this fun out here without me? How greedy of you. She blamed Kurogane with a discontent tone of voice, yet she seemed to be enjoying herself regardless. When he turned to see who was speaking, the figure he laid eyes upon was more breathtaking than he could have imagined. So this is the princess. There is something inconsistent about her. She was adorned with a combat suit that seemed a mix of traditional Eastern-style garb, cutting-edge technology. Her flowing silver hair radiated, beautiful as the moonlight it reflected. She seemed around Rean's age, perhaps even a bit younger. Her face had a delicate, innocent features, yet her eyes betrayed a look as cold and heartless as a bottomless pit. Appearance could be taken for that of a well-bred young lady, or a heartless warrior who stained her hands with blood countless times. One couldn't be sure which of those two conflicting ideals was right, but their simultaneous presence led to that feeling of inconsistency. In her left hand, she gripped a jet-black odachi. No doubt the same one that had cleaved the sky just moments ago. That attack was... Rean clutched his broken sword, muttering. The girl, silver as the moon, turned her attention towards him and smiled. Not a bad little weapon you have there, but it looks like it couldn't stand up to mine. As if to show off, she loosened a spun large black odachi in her hand and held it up to the night sky. Rean couldn't help but think that the pride she had in her odachi was earned. Rean had seen weapons known as treasure swords many times up to now. Seeing this, he could say for certain his odachi was one itself. The blade was engraved in an intricate pattern. While Rean didn't entirely understand the pattern's significance, it was clearly fair to call it a work of art. It seemed that even if the night air was drifting away from the girl's jet-black blade, it was as if the blade rejected everything in this world, insisting it was duty to cut it all away. The sinister blade was connected to a red silver hilt, beautiful and dignified. It was distinctly contrasted to the dark blade. The way that the sword combined these seemingly contradictory qualities seemed a reflection of its wielder. It's certainly an impressive sword, but I don't think it could have been enough to pull that off on its own. That technique. I've never heard of it before, but it has something related to the 8 leaves and her ability. There's no doubt she's on the level of a divine blade, but I thought there was only 3. Rean couldn't help but stare at his opponent. The silver swordsman, on the other hand, seemed to be enjoying herself, laughed heartily. Hee. I didn't expect you to meet you here today. Perhaps this is due to the province of the Master's divine science gaze. Perhaps I'm just overthinking things. You can't mean. She spoke as if she already knew him. Yet, Rean can only posit a guess. It was an interesting technique you just used just now. Lucid spirit unification, I'm quite intrigued. Unlike all our dull senior pupils, you seem to be the cute little brother of a pupil, aren't you? Hearing that, Rean's guess became certainty. You one of... The girl turned herself mischievously, not allowing Rean to finish his sentence. Master isn't here, so just be a good boy and turn around, okay? You've earned this nice little trip abroad yourself, so you should have fun while you're here. At most, you should go around and sharpen your blade when you need it again. Silver Girl points to Rean's broken Tachi with a satisfied smile, leaping away toward the moon. Unable to call out to her, Rean could only watch dumbfoundedly as she disappeared from sight. Without Rean noticing, Kurogane Hane had also disappeared. Damn. I never thought I'd see that sword broken in half before, after so many games. But damn. Ikuruga, the Black God's one blade, and a fellow pupil. His goal to find Yi was still unfulfilled. Rean was now left with nothing but mysteries and doubts. It wasn't just the girl and her compatriots. Rean was certain there was something yet to be uncovered in the mountains ahead. However, it looks like the uncovering those truths may not be my role. Looking out at the shattered remains of the beloved sword, Rean was forced to consider once more just how vast this world was. If it was confirmed that his master was nowhere to be found, then this was just a normal family vacation. Therefore, the encounter he just had was little more than coincidental passing by. At least, that's all it was for now. When I get back home, I have some reforging to do, both for my sword and for myself. There's nothing he could do for this place, let alone this whole country, as he was now. He couldn't prevent whatever's happening was about to occur. However, he had to prepare for the threats that loomed ahead of him in the face of this vast world. Rean was still inexperienced. If he wished to be prepared, he had to hold himself more than ever before. The mountain path that turned to a quiet, fulfilling night's beauty, renewed determination in his heart, Rean began back toward the inn. Damn. That's one story down. Alright guys, hope you guys liked what you saw, especially with the translations, my reactions. I'm assuming this Kurogane guy, I hope I know what I think he is, because this was mentioned in the Kuro no Kiseki, leaks, that he could be the main character. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm certain about. But anyways, next time on Hajimari no Kiseki, we're gonna be doing the second episode of this future. So see you guys all next time.